rocking.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah.
Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me for On the Pipe podcast. Today is Tuesday, November the 8th, 2022, years after zero. That is right. Not only is it election day, as you can see, I voted. It is the return of OTP Tuesday. Not only the return of OTP Tuesday, but we got a lot to talk about, a lot going on, and some very big announcements that we are going to break live right here in just a few moments. I put out some things. I put out a feeler earlier about what you all wanted to hear about, what you all wanted to talk about. The overwhelming percentage of that, 80% of that, was silly season rumors. So no doubt we're going to get into silly season rumors. We're going to talk about the Mideast Hair Scramble that happened last weekend. Caleb Russell and Stu Baylor and Rui Barbosa and the rest of a pro class They threw down. They showed out. You know what I mean. They were all there. See, look, even my watch doesn't even know what I'm talking about. She's yelling at me. So we're going to talk about that. I got the call on 9:30 on Saturday night to announce the race Sunday morning. So I went up there to the Hickory Airport, Wilson's Airport in Hickory, North Carolina, and got to announce that race. And that was a race where it is very obvious that I was a fan with a microphone. It was a lot of fun to be a part of. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. We got the National Enduro that happened, the Gobbler Getter down in Alabama. That's going to wrap up the season. A lot of stuff coming out of that. And then, and only then, will we get to the silly season rumors about everything that's going on. That's what you guys want to know about. You want to know who's changing teams, who's going where, who's doing what. OTP is the source of that information. Before OTP existed, everything was a secret. And it's still a secret. Everything is a secret. And I don't get it. So we find out some of the secrets and we bring it to you. I said from the beginning, OTP is like, we want it to be like if you were best friends with everyone in the industry. You got all the news, all the information. So we try to bring you as much information and be as transparent as humanly possible. So we thank you for joining us. We thank you for being here, and we thank you for being a part of the OTP family. Now, this is a hard thing to get into because you guys know that I've been up to something, and I'm not quite sure how I wanted to announce this. I'm not quite sure how I wanted to bring this up, and that is why we've been up to something for the better part of this year. Before we get into that, we would not be able to do any of this that we've been doing without Beta Motorcycles, who is the official manufacturer of On the Pipe podcast. Beta Motorcycles has been family-owned and operated since 1905. They manufacture the finest enduro, trials, and dual sport motorcycles that are known for their premium quality and rideability. Beta Motorcycles are the best-looking bikes on the market, and they back it up with their superior performance. Head over to betausa.com for more information on their available models or to find a dealer near you to get yours today. We got to get through the ads. This episode is also brought to you in part by our good buddy, Zach Tussle at Raymond James Financial. Zach is a racer and a financial advisor that helps his clients win when it comes to retirement and financial planning. If you or someone you know wants to save and invest for their future or is already retired and needs advice for income during retirement, Zach Tussle is always my first recommendation. Find out more by Googling Zach Tussle or on their website, financialadvisorsdenvernc.com. Zach Tussle's been on the show. Zach Tussle's been at a racetrack. Zach Tussle's probably racing the same race that you raced in. Right now is the perfect time to get a hold of Tussle. Let him know exactly what he can do for you. I know a lot of people come up to me at races and say, hey, I've been meaning to reach out to him, or I need to reach out to him when things slow down, or I need to reach out to him this offseason. It is the offseason. It is a perfect time to invest in your financial future, and Zach Tussle can help you out to do that. But back to what we were talking about before. This is a very big announcement. This is something that we have been talking about the better part of this year. In fact, we might have been talking about Up to Something season last year, heading into this year. But without a doubt, for the majority of 2022, I have been up to something. OTP has been up to something. And I didn't know how to break it down to you, and I didn't know how to let everybody know, and I didn't know how to make this announcement. And that's when I finally got the revelation to sit down and say, if I don't know how to make the announcement, and I can't make the announcement perfectly, and I can't have every single detail of what I've been up to laid out properly on the line before I announce it, why don't I just say screw it and just announce it? And so that is the approach that I told myself I would not take, and that is the approach that we're taking now. So back last year, to set the scene, everyone that listened to the show, everyone that's been listening to the show for a while, if you listen to the show that I put out at the end of last summer called Why I Disappeared for 3 Months, that kind of explains everything that was going on last year. When the Full Gas Sprint Enduro Series decided to shut down, I was first in line trying to take over the Full Gas Sprint Enduro Series. Everyone knows my involvement with the Full Gas Sprint Enduro Series, and helping Hooper out and being the announcer and getting to meet everyone in that Full Gas family. The creation of the U.S. Sprint Enduro that kind of undercut everything and kind of threw a wrench in the whole plan. That thing happened, and then came the opportunity for the National Enduro Series. Spent a few months of last year preparing to take over the National Enduro Series with an investor that we had at the time. And then at the last minute, that rug was pulled out from underneath us as well. So we kind of went into more detail on both of those stories in that episode. But this year, we decided that we were up to something. We started talking with people. That led us talking to more people. That led us talking to even more people. And that led to this whole entire thing that ended up becoming what it is. That being said, throughout this year, my shows that we've done with Stu Baylor, my shows that we've done with other pro riders, my shows that we've done with my buddy Tom, my buddy Craig, and everybody else who has been on the show, we've talked about a lot of different things that happen in race series. We've talked about the management of money of race series. We've talked about the way that riders are treated in race series. We have talked about the safety of race series. We have talked about the accessibility of race series. And that is why, after everything that happened last year and everything that has led us here to this year and every conversation that we have had and every opportunity that I've had to be a part of several different race series. I was an announcer for GNCC. I was the broadcast director for GNCC. I was a camera operator for GNCC. I was an announcer for the Full Gas Sprint Enduro Series. I helped lay out Full Gas Sprint Enduro Series tracks, pounding every single one of those stakes in the old regime and Full Gas Reloaded with the new regime. I was with them all year helping out as well. I've been the announcer for the Mideast Hare Scramble Series. I've been racing all of these series that we've mentioned. And that is why in 2023, OTP is going racing. That is right. Next year, I'm going to have my own series. I've been a part of all the different race series from the bottom to the top, from the inside to the out. We've talked about things. We've analyzed things. We've looked at things. And now it's time to give it a go. Time to give it a whirl. So next year in 2023, I, Tyler Shepardson, will have my own race series, and it will be presented by this very On the Pipe podcast. So this would not be possible without every single one of you that listens to the show, every single one of you that supports the show. And I think one of the best things about this show is having this platform to be able to talk about it, to explain what we're doing, to explain how the racing is going to go, exactly what's going to be done, and get our feedback and everything from you all, the viewer. Because at the end of the day, the listeners of this show are the people out at the racetracks each and every weekend, and we want to cater this thing to you. So this is a giant undertaking, and like I mentioned, I started out with an idea, and we had someone involved, and then someone else wanted to get involved, and so that's what delayed the original announcement of it. After going back and forth with them, decided to not do business together with that person, and then we went back to the original person, and then there was a new person, and now it looks like I just got to make this thing happen. So, as I mentioned, wanted to have every single detail in check. I wish that we did have every single detail in check. Unfortunately, we do not. But we're going to do it. We're going to put this thing together. We're going to make it happen. And I already got a lot of the base layers laid. I already got a lot of things in place. I want to give you guys dates as soon as possible, but we're just waiting on finalizing a couple different things. As you know, there's a lot of schedules that go out. There's a lot of stuff that happens, and we got to kind of work around some stuff, especially these first couple years as we grow. But OTP is going racing in 2023. So this is the, I guess, informal, formal announcement of our series. Now, the series is going to be a GP format. So J-Day is probably the most well-known GP format out here on the East Coast. Out on the West Coast, it used to be called the Big Six Series. Now it's the NGPC. But that is what we're going to do. We're going to do a Grand Prix series. It's going to be a little bit different format even than the other GP series. So more information is going to come out as we go, but think of it as a mini hair scramble. Think of it as a mini hair scramble. That's the best way that I can put it. If you're not good at moto, you don't like riding moto, don't worry. It's going to be accommodating for all riders of all skill levels, for vet riders, for older riders, younger riders, C riders, B riders, A riders, pro riders, all of that. The main thing is I want this to be for the people. I want you to get more than a plaque if you come out and race. So expect a lot of product giveaways. Expect a lot of free rider entries giveaways, things like that. I don't want to give away my whole blueprint because we're going to take the off-road world by storm. And I hope each and every single one of you will give me an opportunity to come out and support the race series and see what we're all about. I think it's going to be a really good thing. We're going to have higher pro payouts than any other series around to hopefully start the change in that direction. We've talked about a lot of the different ways that money is handled and money is spent at other series. So we're going to start things out with a bang. And we're going to go racing, and it's going to be a good time. So keep an eye out for locations. This first year, we're going to be racing anywhere from West Virginia down to Georgia, possibly into Florida. Not sure yet, but as we grow and as we get this thing started, we're going to have a start out in the greater North Carolina region. There's a lot of riders down here, and I'm really excited for this. And I hope that you will be excited for it as well. I hope that we'll be able to get a lot of racers out there to it. So it is going to be a GP, mention that, but don't think of it as a moto race. Don't think about it as you got to come out and jump big old double jumps and triple jumps to be able to be competitive. That is not the case. I personally didn't like going to GP races myself because of that very reason. When you got work on Monday, you can't really risk it by jumping these big jumps or things like that. But for the more skilled riders, we'll still have that option. Like I said, a lot of details are going to come out in the future. Right now, I just want to get it out there, let it be known that we are going racing in 2023, and it's going to be something for everyone. We're also going to be racing on Saturdays. So I think that's a little bit of a unique thing to this area especially. So everyone will race on Saturdays. That way you can get off work on Friday, get to the racetrack, race Saturday, have a good time. Either stay, hang out, camp at the racetrack, ride the next day, or go ahead, head home, get your bike clean, get everything ready to go, and be ready for work Monday morning. So, or make it to church on Sunday morning. Whatever you typically do on a Sunday in the off season, you'll be able to do that Sunday after one of these races. Now, after going back and forth a lot with the name, I did consider running the OTP name for the race series and then changing the name of the actual podcast. But I think I have decided against that right now. What we're going with is Bite GP. So the Bite GP series, Bite, B-I-T-E, Grand Prix. And the Bite, I didn't want an acronym. I wanted something that didn't only bark, it had a bite to it. I didn't want another, there's GNCC, NCHSA, IXCR, VXCS, VCHSS, FTR, YNOA. You know what I mean. A lot of race series have an acronym, and in doing that, I actually created an acronym, but it's an actual word, Bite GP, Beast in the East. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay out all of these big old racetracks. It's going to be a mini hair scramble, and we're going to make it challenging. We're going to make it fun. We're going to make it flowy. We're going to make it for all riders, all skill levels, all ages. We're going to have youth racing. We're going to have vet racing. We're going to have everything in between, and whoever is the best is going to be the best in the East, or the beast in the East, however you want to look at it. That's where the bite came from. BITE, beast in the East, best in the East. However you want to look at it, this series is going to be hopefully a fan favorite. We're going to do some different things. We're going to do some things that are outside the norm for the racing industry. And most of all, we are going to appreciate every single one of you that come out and race with us next year. So super excited. Expect more details to come out over the next coming weeks, but I just wanted to get it out there. We talk about being up to something and not really talking about it. Just want to get it out there, let it be known, so that way everyone can start to plan and prepare. We'll have dates for you very, very soon. We'll have more information for you very, very soon. I'll have the classes posted. I'll have hopefully our locations posted. And throughout the rest of it, we'll learn more about how everything is going to pan out at the Bite GP series. We have an Instagram page if you want to check it out. The logo is being shifted and some things are being changed, but the idea of the logo is there. You can find it on Instagram already right now. By the time you're listening to this, by the time you're viewing this, the Instagram page is up and rolling. So if you could, head on over, give it a follow. That'll be your first place to stay updated with information as it comes out. But the Bike Grand Prix series presented by On the Pipe Podcast is underway. It's official. It is now out in the universe, and it'll be coming to a racetrack near you in 2023. Go ahead and give it a follow at Bite Grand Prix, and you can find it there. And I'm excited. And I was very nervous for this episode, and I was very scared to bring this part up. And now I feel like it was very lackluster. So hopefully that it was something pretty cool. I'm excited, but like I said, we've talked about race series. We've talked about what happens. We've talked about what goes on. We talked about what can be improved. And this is, I mean, you really realistically got to put my money where my mouth is. And we all know that my mouth has been all over the place this year as we've been talking about everything. And so that's the biggest thing. I want it to be the best experience for the riders. I want it to be the best experience for the pro riders. I want it to be the best experience for the amateur riders. I want it to be the best experience for spectators. And I can't tell. So I wasn't going to bring this up, but here we are. I have a notebook. This notebook right here is filled damn near from front to back of ideas. So as I mentioned, I've been involved with every series. I've been involved with GNCC. I've been involved with Mid-East. I've been involved with Full Gas. I've been involved with National Enduro. I've been involved with all of that. And so I've kind of been able to take things from each of those series, sees what works, sees what doesn't work, and hopefully we can blend that all together to make this series something fun, something fresh, something entertaining, and yeah, I don't want to take too much more time talking about it just because now I feel like I'm going in circles, but that's the big news. That's up to something season. That is the main thing of what we have been up to. So just from the absolute bottom of my heart, I can't say this enough. And I know I say it a lot. I know I say it on a lot of shows, but I mean it sincerely from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to each and every single one of you that has listened to this podcast, that has watched this podcast, that has followed and supported this podcast up to this point. And we also got some more plans for the podcast coming up as well. But, yeah, that's the big thing on the horizon is Bite GP, Bite Grand Prix. We're going racing. Bite GP presented by OTP 2023, baby. So keep an eye out. We're going to do some giveaways. We're going to do a lot of video stuff. We're going to get this thing up and rolling. But right now, like I said, there's never a time where everything is perfect, and I was waiting for that opportunity for everything to be perfect. Instead, I'm going to do the opposite, put it out in the universe. We're going to figure it out as we go, and I hope that you all give me an opportunity, and I hope you all join me for the ride, and I hope that we can see you out at the racetrack. So there you have it. Everyone knows what I'm up to. So we got a bunch of other stuff to talk about. Like I said, one of the biggest things that we saw was silly season. Everyone wants to know. Who's racing where? Who's going to what team? Who's riding what bike? That's going to be the biggest thing that we talk about. We're going to talk about all that. We're also live on YouTube, so if you want to drop some comments, you want to ask some questions, you want to go through any of that, drop me a question. I'm pretty sure that I can see them all in here. I can see a couple comments. I don't know how many have come through, but I can see them in here, allegedly. So if you have any questions, you have any comments, feel free to let me know. But we're going to start things off at the Mideast Hare Scramble last weekend at the airport, Wilson's Airport in Hickory, North Carolina. It was one of those moments that I won't forget. Like I said, I was actually out for Halloween. It was the day after Halloween. So Halloween, no, it wasn't. It was the day before Halloween. But we were out Saturday night for Halloween, and I got a call at 9:30 at night that they needed an announcer for Sunday. And so I ended up going down there. It was a big money race. There was a $10,000 pro purse, and that drew everyone out. I mean, that drew a lot of attention. You start putting that much money on something, people are going to come. So when you're looking at the Bike Grand Prix Series, we're going to have the biggest pro payout that's out there. We talked about it. We've talked about money. We've talked about all this, all that. It's easy to talk about it. We're going to be about it, and we're going to start things off with that. But when this one race series decided to pay out a big purse, we saw Stu Baylor come out. We saw Caleb Russell come out. We saw Rui Barbosa come out. Jonathan Johnson, Jesse Ansley, Mason Simmons, Tyler Palmer, Michael DeLosa, Andrew Van Atta, Levi Elliott, Zach Davison, Austin Lee, Nate Davis. All of them were out there in the pro class. When was the last time you saw Austin Lee on the 1-2-3 with a mohawk out there on a racetrack? You know what I mean? We brought him out of retirement. We bought the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Caleb Russell came out of retirement to race for this purse and get some Christmas money. It was a $10,000 purse. It was $3,000 to the winner. Caleb Russell has 3 kids. That's $1,000 per kid for Christmas if he wins. So he came out and went racing. And then they all get there, and they announce that it's going to be a Le Mans start. So you got 13 pro riders, probably 17 torn ACLs between the 13 pro riders, and now they got to sprint down the starting stretch to get to their bike, turn their bike on, and get going. Stu Baylor was the very last person into the woods. He was the last person to make it to his bike and couldn't get it to fire. Caleb Russell was on a brand new bike talking about the new starters, how he couldn't find the new starter button to get it to fire, so he didn't get off to a bad start. But you know who did get off to a good start? Tyler Palmer, the local legend out of Denver, North Carolina. Skinny himself, the adopted Australian, got out to the whole shot and the early lead and came through the barrels on the first lap, leading the way. So he held on to that lead for the entire lap and led lap 1 over this stat class that was all racing for all this money. But next time we saw them around, we would see a new leader, Rui Barbosa. Rui Barbosa was on rails. Rui Barbosa wanted this money. Rui Barbosa was going to battle everybody tooth and nail for this money. And Rui Barbosa was out in front of this thing for the second and third laps. And then that's when we saw Caleb Russell get around. If you saw some of the videos, Caleb was taking a line on the hill climb that was out there that nobody else was taking. It was kind of up a rock, and that's where he was making up a lot of his time. And that's, I believe, where he passed for the lead at. So then Caleb led lap 4. Caleb came around. He got the 2-lap card in the lead, lap 5. Comes around, white flag lap, Caleb Russell, your leader, lap 6. But Stu Baylor had worked his way up through the pack and was right behind. Stu Baylor, dead last start, 5th place after the first lap, 3rd place after the second lap, back to 4th place for the 3rd lap, back up to 3rd place for laps 3, 4, into 2nd on lap, 6, and then I guess it was 2 laps ago when Stu took over the lead. Tight track, small track, make the track hard for passing. And so Stu Baylor was able to get the lead. Actually, so I believe from what they said, Caleb Russell and everyone got caught up with a lapper, and that's where Stu was able to make the pass. And then it's just such a hard track to pass on that Stu and Caleb just rode wheel to wheel until the very end. So it came down to the absolute last couple turns, and Stu Baylor was able to hold on and get the win. And that put Caleb Russell, the GOAT himself, in the number 2 spot, and Rui Barbosa would hold on for 3rd place. Now, one of the cool parts about that for me was doing the podium afterwards, because you're looking at it. You got a class of some retired guys that came out. You got young guys. You got privateers. You got guys that came out of retirement without a sticker on their bike that are racing in the pro class for this money. And then you got the greatest of all time and probably the most popular factory rider that there is on the circuit right now in Stu Baylor. We all know the battles that Stu and Caleb have had. We all know the mentality that Stu and Caleb have. We all know how many races they have had against each other. For them, with Stu's season missing most of the season, with Caleb's season, now this is second season being retired. He comes back, and those two get the juices flowing again and get to battle each other. And it was just really cool. I sat back and looked at that podium and was like, this is really happening right now. In the middle of Hickory, North Carolina, we got the greatest of all time. We got the, Stu's 5-time National Enduro champion, GNCC contender every year, and all up on a stage. And then Rui Barbosa, who led a couple laps of the race and stayed right there with him the whole time as well. So Rui, always fun to talk to on the podium, a very appreciative and very cool guy Rui is. And then we get over to Caleb Russell, and one of the comments that I've gotten more than anything is, and it's actually funny to me, but Caleb is one of those guys where it's hard to get any emotion out of him. So up on the podium, got to going back and forth a little bit, and got him laughing, got him smiling, and talking about the race. And it was just such a surreal moment for me just to be up there talking to him again 2 years after he retires, talking to him up on a podium. Caleb, obviously, I think a 4-time full gas sprint enduro champion. So had my fair share of winter interviews with Caleb over the years. So it's cool to be up there, see him and now his 3 kids out at the racetrack. Crew took home a win in the morning race as well, his son. And to be up there on the podium and to get him to crack a couple smiles and talk and banter back and forth was pretty cool. And then obviously him and Stu going back and forth as well. But yeah, it was just it was a memorable moment. It was definitely something really cool, something that I was excited about, and something that like I said, just be one of those ones that you remember. But then fast forward to this past weekend, just 2 days ago down in Alabama, it was the Gobbler Getter National Enduro. As you may or may not have known, the owner of Enduro Engineering was the owner of the National Enduro Series, and obviously a sponsor of the series, with that being the case. And they put a bounty on the year. So what that means is if a rider was to win all 6 tests, at the beginning of the year, they would win an extra $1,000. If nobody did it the first round, it'd go to $2,000 at the second round. If nobody did it then, it would go to $3,000 at the third round. It made it all the way to the season finale. Nobody had claimed the bounty. Nobody had won all 6 tests in a day. Now, that being said, if someone won 5 tests and someone spoiled it, then they would get paid $1,000 for spoiling the bounty for that other rider. Well, this past weekend, it was an $8,000 bounty heading into the season finale. Josh, Toth like both, goes out, wins the first test. What? Wins the second test. What? Wins the third test. Wins the fourth test, wins the fifth test. Look, he won so many tests, I can't even talk anymore. That's how many tests he won. And then he won the final test and won the day by about 2 minutes and took home an extra $8,000 for doing so. So that was pretty cool to see. I'm sure that payday is a really cool payday to get. Maybe one day we'll be paying that out every race to the winner. You know what I mean? Because now we're race promoters. I see a lot of people joining in here afterwards. If you missed the big announcement, we've been up to something. And we got a race series. We're doing our own race series. It's presented by OTP next year. But anyway, that's besides the point. Josh Toth ending the season with a bang. He is dangerous at every single one of those National Enduros. He can win on any weekend, and he proved that this weekend, sweeping the day, including over the recently crowned champion of Grant Baylor. Ricky Russell finished in second place. Ricky has been on a heater to end his campaign in 2022. Hopefully he can carry that momentum into 2023. Aboard which bike? We might find out in just a couple of minutes when we talk about silly season. Craig DeLong ending his season with a GNCC podium as well, and finishing off with a National Enduro podium in the third place spot. And then we look down to the Pro 2 class on a beta. Premium quality, rideability, National Enduro Pro 2 win. Once again, Jonathan Johansson goes out there and gets the win aboard that Beta 2-stroke machine. Steve Nicholas will end on the podium in second place, so I know that's a big weekend for Steve there. And then Will Sievenpiper will round out the Pro 2 podium on the day, which puts a fella that we all know, a fella that is close to the show, a fella that is your friend and mine, Ben Nelko, in the number 4 place spot. But with him being there in that 4th place spot, he wrapped up the 2022 National Enduro Pro 2 Championship, making it his second title of 2022. Just a few months ago, he won the Pro 2 Championship at the Full Gas Sprint Enduro Series, and now he ends the season with a national championship, a national number 1 plate in that Pro 2 class. So super stoked for Ben Nelko, a good buddy of mine, to get the win, to dig deep, and end up with 2 titles in 22. So I know him and his whole family and his whole team, they are absolutely psyched to be a part of that as well. But it was cool to see Ben hold on all year and actually race through a couple injuries and a knee injury, to be more specific, to make sure that he got this title and wrapped it up for the year. Looking at the Women's Pro Class, it came down to a winner-take-all situation. And why this was winner-take-all? Because if Kenzie won and Rachel got second, then they would be tied on points, and then they would be tied on wins, which I believe then goes into a who had the best last finish situation. If Rachel won, then she would have won on points. If Rachel beat Kenzie in any capacity, she would have won on points alone. But Kenzie ended up getting the win as those two were battling throughout the day, battling with the championship on the line. Mackenzie Tricker goes out there and grabs the win, and that makes it her 4th straight title. So that would be her 5th win of the season. That ties them on points and ties them on wins. And so she got the win in the last round. So she takes home the national number 1 plate for the 4th straight year in a row. We're talking about a girl that has won WMX titles, Loretta Lynn's titles, motocross titles back in Australia. Now, in the tightest woods known on our national circuit, National Enduro, she wins 4 straight titles there. So night and day difference between where the career started and where her career is at now. So big congratulations to her, Rachel Archer, who is a national champion of her own right, grabbing that GNCC national title. Had an opportunity to win a second national title, but ends up in the number 2 spot, second place on the day. And then Taylor Bonecutter will round out the Women's Pro Class podium. So that is the way the weekend went. That is the way the weekend before went. And we talked about a lot of things. We talked about what we've been up to. So now let's talk about what's on everybody else's mind. And it seems from all of our stories that everyone replied to is silly season. So, and silly season is something that I've kind of been talking about all year long. Like, as I find out information, I say that information that I might have heard on the show, but it seems like a lot of that has been missed by the wayside, and that's okay because we can talk about it once again. So let's run through this. And if I forget anybody, please let me know in the comments who I forgot or who you would like to know about if I don't mention them. I think the biggest thing that everyone is asking about is Stu. So we'll start there. What is Stu doing? What bike is Stu going to be on? We saw Stu ride for Sherco for a few races, and then we all know how that whole thing went down. Then we saw Stu race a Husqvarna. Then we saw Stu race a Kawasaki. Then we saw Stu put one on a podium, a Kawasaki that he built himself. And then we saw Stu sign to Ampro Yamaha, where he came out and won his first GNCC back. Then he won his second GNCC back. Then he won his third GNCC back. And that ended up to a full-time contract with the Ampro factory Yamaha team. That lasted him 2 more seasons past that, where last year we saw him come down to the wire. It was a winner-take-all situation with him and Ben Kelly heading into Ironman last year. He also wrapped up the National Enduro title last year for his 5th National Enduro title. This year, he comes out, gets hurt, breaks his neck at the very first round, and then makes it through the rest of this season and gets second place on the year in the National Enduro points. Well, he didn't race the last National Enduro, so he might have ended up third in points. But regardless, he had himself back in a top 3 spot in a national series. He came back and won a GNCC race. He came back and was on the podium at 2 other GNCC races after a broken neck, after a broken face. He wasn't even cleared from the broken neck when he started racing National Enduro again, and then broke his face. And then he didn't miss a National Enduro race after that either. And then he raced GNCC before summer break. There's a lot that went into these past couple seasons with Stu on a Yamaha. But we have reason to believe, and what we've been hearing, is that Stu Baylor will indeed be on a KTM next year. So that seems to be pretty public knowledge now. I know that it's been out there. It's been talked about. I don't think that one is as big of a secret now. I think the general public knows that one. So he's not going to be on a factory KTM. It sounds like, from what I've heard, that it potentially would be their own team. That would potentially include another couple of riders. Potentially an XC2 rider. Waiting on confirmation of that one. But it also sounds like Ben Nelko, who fresh off a Pro 2 championship, obviously a National Enduro, a Pro 2 championship moves you into the Pro 1 class. And so it looks like next year, Ben Nelko will be competing alongside Stu Baylor on perhaps this newly formed team. And he'll be racing XC1 at GNCC, and he'll be racing Pro 1 at National Enduro. And, of course, he'll be racing the Bite Grand Prix Series. The Bite Grand Prix Series, the Bite GP, presented by On the Pipe Podcast, a fresh new series coming to the East Coast. He'll be at those as well. Mike Wachowski. We just saw Mike today post a farewell to Yamaha as well. So on his Instagram page, he kind of thanked them for the last several years of their support. And from everything that I'm hearing, Mike Wachowski is going to end up on a Phoenix Racing Honda next year. So hopefully we'll see some success from Mike on that. Mike is one of those guys that can beat anyone on any given day. I think there's some health stuff or some reoccurring stuff that ends up plaguing, it seems like, the second half of his season. But Mike Wachowski, one of those great talents, has really been a contender and up front in that XC2 class for quite some time now. Grant Baylor, newly crowned National Enduro champion. He's been on that gas racing the past several years. We kind of talked about that before on the show, and that one kind of got confirmed when members of the Babbitt's Online Factory Kawasaki team posted a 450 Kawasaki with Barkbusters. So it's like, how many people ride a 450 with Barkbusters? Perhaps it's a two-time National Enduro champion that's riding it. So we've kind of heard those rumors all throughout the year. I believe that to be true from what I've heard. Once again, kind of got to ride that edge. But from everything that I'm hearing, points to Grant Baylor joining Josh Strang and Lyndon Snodgrass on that Babbitt's Online Monster Energy Factory Kawasaki team next year. We've also talked about Johnny Girard. Everything that we're hearing is leading to Johnny Girard becoming a factory KTM rider. So he'll be under that FMF Red Bull KTM tent next year, coming off of a XC2 championship and a lot of success in that XC2 class. We'll see him in XC1 next year, and then probably racing some sprint enduros. Johnny Girard is a multi-time J-Day champion, so hopefully might get to see him out at the Bite GP series. Yet to be developed, so we'll keep an eye on that situation. And this up to some of the season, I haven't really been shy about, like, when people ask me at the racetrack. I've been kind of letting people know, here's what we're working on, here's where we're at, and one of those being all of these riders. So all the pro riders, and then a lot of other riders throughout other classes know about it. And so now they officially know about it. Everyone officially knows about it. And so hopefully we're going to have some stat classes, especially when we start releasing how we're going to do our pro payouts, and also what we're going to do for the amateur riders. I think everyone's going to like it, and I think it'll give people a reason to come out and race with us. So yeah, Johnny Girard allegedly going underneath the factory KTM rig. There's some vacancies at Yamaha. We talked about that. So who's going over to Yamaha? From everything that we're hearing, Liam Draper might be on an Ampro factory Yamaha next year in the XC2 class competing. And then it looks like they might be getting a return rider. And it's a guy that we were talking about that ended this year with a lot of momentum heading into next year. A guy that knows the bike because he was on the team. It sounds like Ricky Russell will be heading back over to that Ampro Yamaha machine to be on that. Looks like we got a comment from Evan Smith. What's going on, Evan Smith? Full gas sprint enduro overall champion, beta pilot Evan Smith. He asked, any news on Thad Duvall? Thad Duvall, we also saw him do a couple of farewell posts. He's been a staple of that Rockstar Husky team ever since he went over there. When you think of Thad Duvall, you think of a Rockstar Husky with 989 plates on it. Thad Duvall, from everything that we're hearing, will be on a similar bike with a red frame and red plastic. So it looks like Thad Duvall will be going over to the Coastal Racing team, the Gas Factory effort. So just a couple semis down, same management, same bikes, all that kind of stuff. So he should be able to get a hold of that bike and get pretty comfortable, pretty familiar on it right away. So that is where that pans out. A couple riders that I don't know about. Lane Michael. Lane Michael won a Sprint Enduro championship. And I don't know where he's at. That's one person I haven't really heard anything about. Not sure where he's going to end up at. There's still available teams out there. Rui Barbosa announced on the Mid-East podium that he'll be staying with Phoenix Honda next year, so that's really cool for him. Cody Barnes will be staying with Phoenix Honda as well. Josh Strang will be staying with that Babbitt's Kawasaki team. Who else are we missing? From the factory guys, I think we got everybody. Is there any factory guys that we didn't mention? Jordan Ashburn, the reigning champion, will be on that Magna 1 team. I heard some rumors about Jordan earlier in the year. I haven't heard it confirmed or denied ever since then. But that's a pretty big one that I'm not gonna go into that because I don't know for sure what's going on with it. Trevor Bollinger did re-sign with Husqvarna. So he's dealing with that tibia plateau injury right now. So rehabbing that and getting back into race shape. He'll be on that Rockstar Husky. Going forward, Craig DeLong will be staying with Husky as well, from what I know, from what I've been told. Ben Kelly going into last year, so his championship season, the year after he won the championship, he signed like an 84-year-long deal with Factory KTM. So I think Ben Kelly will be another guy kind of like Caleb Russell will end up retiring underneath that tent. So we'll see. But yeah, in all seriousness, I believe he's signed through 2025. I think it was a 3 or 4 year contract they signed at the time. So KTM really investing in Ben Kelly and Ben Kelly's future, which as he comes off of a shoulder surgery and a compound tib fib fracture, it's nice to know you got a team supporting you. And it's nice to know that you got a team that's behind you because we saw him dominate coming out at the first few rounds of the GNCC this year. And by first few, I mean 7. He won 7 in a row and did it in pretty solidifying fashion. So, yeah, that's where we're at. And I see that we just got like double the amount of viewers. So if there's anybody out there that didn't hear any of this, that wants to know any information, we talked about silly season. We talked about what we're up to and what we're up to for next year. We talked about National Enduro. We talked about Mid-East Racing. And we talked about voting. Go out and vote. See? I voted. It's right there on my shirt. So, yeah. I don't see any other names popping up in here. I think we got everything covered. Beta, from what I know, from what I've told, from conversation I've had, it seems like they're staying the exact same. Evan Smith, Jonathan Johnson, Jason Lipscomb. Sounds like that's going to be the returning team for the Beta team next year. I haven't heard anything from the girls' side of things. Taylor Jones is the only. Well, I guess Taylor and Rachel Archer are both factory supported. But I haven't heard anything on the girl side of thing. Anybody that might be changing bikes or going somewhere else or doing any of that kind of stuff. I see the comments going on about Evan Smith. I get confused about the Evan Smiths a lot of times. So, if it is not Beta Rider Evan Smith, you confuse me and a lot of people. But it's cool. Yeah, so it looks like this comment thing works out. People that have watched on Twitch versus YouTube, let me know what you like better. Is it easier, more accessible on YouTube, or do you like it better on Twitch? For people that are coming in now, we're up to something. It's the Byte GP series. I've felt my watch vibrating, and I kind of looked at my phone. It looks like we're getting a lot of followers or getting some people to follow the account. It's Byte Grand Prix, at Byte Grand Prix. If you want to check it out on Instagram, that's Byte, like, you know what I mean? BITE. Or Beast in the East Grand Prix. If you win that class, you'll be able to say that you're the best in the East at GP dirt bike motorcycle racing. But I saw a comment up here come through earlier, kind of right when I was in the middle of a rant. Let me see if I can go back and find it, because it was a good one. Our own race series so that there's less BS. LOL, I love it. That's what Kobe Wilson said. And that's exactly what I want you all to think about this. This is our race series. I'm starting a race series for us. It is our race series. And that's the cool thing about having OTP, to come out here and explain exactly what is going on, to explain exactly what we're going to do. As soon as we get information, we're going to present it to you. We're going to talk to the riders. We're going to talk to pro riders, to amateur riders, to parents even. It is a community. That is what we're building. We're not building a race series. We're building a community. We're developing ways to give back to people. We are coming up with a fun format that's still going to be a little bit different than the GP series that are out there, but it's going to be fun for the weekend warrior, the older guys that don't want to race for 2 hours, that don't want to race for 3 hours. This race series, you're going to have the opportunity to do shorter motos, or you can do multiple classes, multiple motos. You can race as long or as short as you want. If you race as short as you want, I guess you won't do very well, but if you race the allotted motos, it'll be plenty. You don't have to be in tip-top race shape. You don't have to work out 5 days a week, come out and race it. It's going to be something for everyone. And not only on the racing side of things, but from the spectator side of things. We got some things in the works that I think is going to be pretty exciting. I'm pretty pumped about. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. I want this to be a community. I want to get your feedback. I am in this for the sport. I am in this for growing the sport. I am in this for helping change the sport. I am in this to help grow what we can give back to the sport, and that's why I want everyone's feedback so that we can move forward and progress the sport and progress the way that things get done, progress the way that things look at it, and I couldn't be more excited. So hope we can make this thing happen. I hope you guys can come check out some races, and yeah, very scary, but very exciting. So we'll go through a couple of comments. I'm going to read through the comments now. I don't know how fast they're coming in based off of what I am saying. So if you want to get your questions in, get them in right now, because we're going to run through these questions. As soon as the comments die down, we're going to end this thing. We're going to wrap it up. So we got some more talk about the two Evan Smiths. Kobe's letting us know that YouTube is better than Twitch. I don't know if the quality's better. With Twitch, I think you might have to have an account to even watch. So that's why I want to do YouTube. I was trying to broadcast to YouTube and Facebook at the same time so we could capture everything, but I couldn't figure it out. And after 40 minutes of trying, I just decided to go straight on here. What about XC2 riders? Jesse Ansley. That is a great question. A lot of the XC2 riders I don't know about. We talked about guys that are staying the same. Cody Barnes, Rui Barbosa, Lennon Snodgrass, obviously defending that number 1 plate. The only real big XC2 moves that we know of, allegedly, is Liam Draper going to Ampro Factory Yamaha to ride that one. Oh, I forgot one of the biggest things. One of the biggest things that we need to talk about. Liam Draper going to Ampro Yamaha and Mike Wachowski going over to Phoenix Racing Honda. You talked about Jesse Ansley specifically. I spoke with Jesse. He's going to be on a KTM next year, so he's not changing brands. I don't know anything beyond that, but it sounds like he will be on a KTM next year. Is there going to be a vintage class for Big Rig Craig? We're going to have to work on that, but he's selling his vintage bikes. But, yeah. Oh, okay. Before I continue reading the comments, this is a big one. So, the last show that we did with Big Rig Craig, we talked about some of the silly season stuff. We talked about some of the changes. We talked about some of what's going on. In that show, I talked about an outlandish rumor that there's no way could have been true. It was so preposterous that there's no way it could be true. and I mentioned it on the air. And when I woke up the next day, I had 2 text messages and 3 DMs from people in the industry that were very mad that I said what I said, which it seems like it is absolutely true from the way that people were so upset that it got out. And that big news that I thought was no way could be possible. I said it laughing on the Laugh Show. Zach Osborne, 2-time 250 motocross champion, 250 supercross champion, 1-time 450 motocross champion, long-time supercross motocross factory guy. Zach Osborne is going to be a full-time GNCC racer next year in the XC2 class on a Yamaha. Allegedly. Let me put that out there. Allegedly. It just sounded so preposterous that it couldn't be true. And then we casually mentioned it on the show, and based off of some of the reactions that I got, I believe that to be pretty true. But as everything that we've mentioned in this show, we do not know anything for sure. But all the signs are pointing towards Zach Osborne being a full-time factory Yamaha rider in the XC2 class of GNCC next year. So that's going to be crazy. I don't know how. That's going to be one to watch. It's going to be one to keep an eye on. Other XC2 guys, I'm trying to think. From everything I know, Ryder Lafferty staying the same. Trying to think of like what other top guys are out there. We talked about Johnny. We talked about Evan. They're both staying at Beta. So yeah, we'll go through some of these other ones. We got people asking about Stu. We did talk about Stu. Those are reiterated again in the comments. Michael Kowski leaving Yamaha. We just talked about that as well. He posted today that he will be leaving Yamaha, and we expect him to be on a Phoenix Racing Honda for next year. You may have already said it, but what are you thinking the track will be like? So I assume that you were talking about what will the track be like for the Byte GP series. And the best way I can explain it to you is the first year we will pretty much only exclusively go to motocross tracks. So expect dang near a full lap on whatever motocross track that we are at. And then anywhere from a mile to 2 miles, maybe more, maybe less, depending on the location, of woods. So that will be one giant lap. You'll do a lap around the motocross track, dive into the woods, race some woods a little bit, and then come back out. But we're going to make it big, wide, open, multiple lines for passing, and it's also going to be like semi-groomed woods. So, yeah, I have an idea in mind. Everything's going to be bannered, so all the woods will have banner on both sides, so you'll know exactly where you can and can't go. And, yeah, we'll have I can't give away all my details. It's going to be fun, and you're going to see a lot of information coming out as far as how the events are ran, what we're going to do, some of the different things that we're going to do. You'll see that in incoming weeks, but that is what the tracks will be like. Maybe if we can find a place where we can add some extreme sections, we will. As far as like an enduro cross section, we'll do what we can. But, yeah, tracks will be fun. I promise. And keep in mind, a guy that doesn't like jumping motorcycles is putting on these races. So for the Pro and A guys, you're going to have to jump things. I'm sorry. You're Pro and A riders, you're going to have to jump stuff. For everybody else, we got a couple different options to where you don't have to risk your life and limb by getting in the air, but you'll still be able to remain competitive. So be on the lookout for that. Michael Kowski leaving. What about Josh Toth? Didn't you say he was doing a Ryan Sipe style deal? So that's what I heard a while ago. Haven't really heard any developments on that, so I can't really speak to it with as much confidence as everything else that we've talked about and everyone else that we've mentioned. But the last I heard before was that was kind of the direction that they were trying to go into, which Josh Toth, one of the most talented people on a motorcycle that you could possibly watch. And if he was to go into a Ryan Sipe style role where he's doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, I think that would be right up his alley. I think racing the same series and competing in the same series can kind of burn everyone out. And I think anybody that can make a living doing what they want to do on a dirt bike, I'm all for it. I'll do anything to make it happen. I'll do anything to see it happen. I want it to happen for everybody. That being said, Josh will be a prime candidate to do something like that. Ryan Sipes, one of the new owners of the National Enduro Series, was out at the National Enduro Series this past weekend, out on crutches. He's been through several different surgeries for a broken pelvis that he sustained. So I don't know. That would make a lot of sense, but like I said, I haven't heard enough to really confirm that with confidence, but that is what I heard, and then that's also what I think would make a lot of sense. Josh Toth did a backflip on a Yamaha YZ125, like off of a freestyle ramp, did a backflip to dirt. He's insane. He just won 6 straight tests and took home $8,000 for doing it this past weekend. So Toth like both. He's a prime candidate for that. Do you need any help with the series as in workers? I need all the help with the series as in workers. That's been one of the most, I'll tell you the things that I'm worried about since we got everyone here. I'm worried about finding workers, finding someone that can run scoring, finding someone that can run signups, finding someone that can help cut track, lay out track, put up banner, and then be there during the race to put banner back up when people run through it, to stage people. There's a lot. And like I said, I got this notebook full of stuff. So yes, I do need help with workers. If you are interested in helping out with the new Bike Grand Prix series presented by On the Pipe Podcast, please shoot me a message. I need all the help that I can get. I got a couple of my very good buddies that are already on board that will be full-time workers with me. I think Big Rig Craig will be joining us out there, as well as my good buddy, and he was actually on the show as well, Robert Berry, who is a District 29 legend, local motocross legend, grew up racing moto. Now he is a moto coach. He'll be helping me out with the series as well. But we definitely need workers. We definitely need hands on deck. And like I said, for the first year, right now I'm thinking 6 rounds is going to be the sweet spot. I'm still kind of in between 6 or 8, but with it being November and with us trying to fit in with all the other dates, I'm thinking 6 rounds. So we'll need workers, ideally, that can commit to all 6 rounds. That's another aspect of the series that I kind of want to change, how we treat workers. So hopefully we can turn that into a big family. Hopefully we can get workers that are going to be on all the rounds, so that way we can be with the same team and all know what's going on and share the same goals. So if you are interested or willing to help out, love to hear from you. Also, safety. I was a safety guy in my previous job. We've talked about safety a lot on here. I plan to do a couple things to hopefully make this one of the safest events that you could race. So that way you could go to the race and know that if something were to happen to you or a loved one or a friend, buddy, competitor, whoever, anyone, that you'd be in good hands. We also got some really good ideas as well for fundraising. Hopefully at each and every event we can give back to a specific cause. That's one thing that I really want to do, is do some fundraising, do some charitable type things, philanthropy, if you will. So right now the idea is that every round will have a specific thing in mind that we'll raise money for in a couple different ways, and just kind of ways to give back to riders, give back to the community, give back to causes that matter to our family, our OTP family, our soon-to-be Bite GP family. Plan to do a lot of things like that, so I'm excited about it. So yeah, workers, anybody like that, shoot me a message, because like I said, we're going to need some good folks out there. JoJo Cunningham, XC2. Grant Davis, XC2. From what I know, Grant Davis will be going to XC2, from what I believe. And then JoJo Cunningham, everything that we've heard, and Stu, I think, said it on the show, or maybe Craig said it on the show, someone said it on the show, that he'll be doing another year in the amateur classes and then moving up to XC2 in 24. Heard Grant Davis will be on a KTM. Any truth to that? Without going into a lot of detail, I'll just say no. I think Grant Davis will be on a Kawasaki next year. JoJo is saying 250A. Grant is going XC2. That is what I believe to be the case as well. Brandon Bowlinger's on here. Ken Roxon racing first 3 rounds of GNCC on a Triumph. He would run the new series, but he doesn't want to bite off too much. He can't bite off more than he can chew, because that is, Ken Roxon wouldn't be the beast of the East, the beast in the East. So that's why he's scared to come race GPs. So that's where we're at. I think we got all the information out there. I'm excited about it. For the off season, I want to keep this thing rolling. I want to keep this thing building. I want to keep the momentum going. I know we missed last week. There was a lot of stuff going on. Trying to figure this stuff out, trying to figure this stuff out, trying to figure other stuff out. We're here. OTP Tuesday. Plan to keep these things coming in the future. Plan to have some guests on, so if you have any suggestions for guests, shoot me a message, let me know. We'll get some riders on, get some crew members on, get some team owners on. I want to hear from Chris Landers. Hopefully we'll get him on coming up. The owner of the Magna 1 team won both XC2 titles, quads and ATVs. Won a 250A title with his son. Won an XC3 title. I don't want to say that's all. Like, I think that's all, but I think that is all. But that's also everyone on that team winning a championship. So hopefully we can talk from him and the mastermind that formed that whole team. I still think that's crazy. Both XC1 titles, an XC3 title, a 250A title. It's insane. So hopefully we can hear from him in the coming weeks. But yeah, just a lot of people. We've had a lot of people that have been on board, then off board, then on board, then off board. So hopefully we'll be able to use the off season to run through all sorts of fun, unique guests and hear their stories and hear what's going on. But the big news is that we're up to something, and now we can finally tell you what we're up to. Bike GP, the Bike Grand Prix, presented by OTP 2023, baby! It's coming at you live, 2023. You heard it here first on the Pipe Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being involved with this show, with this sport. As always, be a friend, tell a friend. If you like OTP, let somebody know about it, because couldn't do it without you. And look forward to seeing you at the racetracks next year. And yeah, follow the new page at Bite Grand Prix on Instagram. And then be on the lookout for a lot of fun stuff coming up. A lot of cool announcements coming up. Also, sponsors. We need sponsors. So if you want to sponsor a podcast or a race series, I promise, give me a little bit of time. This is going to be the biggest and most premier thing around. So that being said, thank you so very much for listening. Hit up Zach Tussle with Raymond James Financial to get your financial future mapped out. Financial Advisors, Denver, NC. Excuse me, I did not mean to burp into the mic. Financial Advisors, DenverNC.com, or find Zach on social media. Shoot him a DM. He'll be more than happy to get back to you, reach out to you. Zach Tussle, he was on the show. You can find the spelling of his name there. And always check out BetaUSA.com. Find out why their bikes are so awesome. Also check out ArmorGraphics.com. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening. We will see you next week for On the Pipe Podcast, where we'll have even more news, even more excitement coming from you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Be a friend. Tell a friend.